Lochlann is, as I say, from University College London, and he's done a great deal in helping us develop working with schools. So we're going to talk to him about what we've done and how we've developed it. So Lochlann, if you'd like to come on, if I can ask you first of all, I said we're working with schools, but lots of people may not know quite what we're doing. So could you tell us a bit, very briefly, because we've only got a 10-minute slot for the whole thing, what that means in developing climate action plans? What is it we're doing? What is it that you are doing?
I'm Lochlann. I'm the London Regional Hub Manager for the Climate Ambassadors Programme, and I'm based at the UCL Climate Action Unit. Um, so I presented on one of these calls several months ago and have been working particularly with Francis and Trevor on connecting with schools in the borough. And what we mean when we say support schools with climate action through this Climate Ambassadors Programme is to help schools develop a climate action plan. That's something that the Department for Education set out as one of their priorities in their sustainability and climate change strategy a few years ago. And they set out the expectation in that strategy that every school in England would have a climate action plan and sustainability lead in place by 2025. So we are working to help schools develop those plans by connecting them with volunteer support. And just one more word on that initial question, Francis, is um, that's why it's been so great to connect with the Climate Action Forum in Enfield because we're looking for quite specific volunteers and quite a specific support role for schools because we know that what schools need can be quite specific. It's a very demanding context. Schools have so much on their plate already. So when we connect volunteers with schools, we really are conscious of making the most of the school's time, that kind of precious time that they're giving to these climate action plans. So the main thing that we emphasize to the volunteers when they're supporting schools is think about co-benefits, think about how this climate action plan can benefit the school not only for sustainability reasons, which are really important, but kind of the existing priorities that the school has already, because that's often an effective way to embed climate actions within a school context, is to say it's not just important for people who really are passionate about the climate crisis, which of course I'm sure all of us on this call are, but also for people who the most important thing is students' well-being or the academic attainment of the students, trying to
Right.
frame actions as things that can contribute to that.
So we're working with four schools, aren't we, in Enfield to start with? Can you just tell us again briefly, because we've only, as I say, got 10 minutes to get through all this, briefly, what the progress on that is?
Yeah, so we've connected with four schools for the pilot. I have met with all of the senior leadership in the schools. I met with three of the head teachers, and then for one of the schools, I met with a couple of the heads of department, and I think an assistant head was in that meeting. So I met with them kind of between August and September. We had an initial meeting for me to understand what they're doing already, because that's also a really important step to understand what they're doing already, and then to identify what they would like help with most. So, what are their priorities? And then how we can support them kind of on an ongoing basis for a couple of months through a six-step process that we've developed. So, breaking that climate action plan writing process down into a few more manageable over the next couple of months.
I mean, obviously, schools are very busy and they can't do everything. And sometimes it seems like we're asking them to do too much. So the idea of having climate ambassadors, volunteers to go in and help is pretty important, isn't it? And you found some volunteers through EnCaf. We found some volunteers. Some haven't materialized, some most of them have. And you've done some training. So tell us about the training and then what those volunteers will be doing themselves.
Sure. So the training we run, it is based on the insights from the UCL Climate Action Unit. So kind of research-based insights on what is a reliable way to get people to act to take climate action. And the main focus of those insights is looking at encouraging actions rather than focusing on awareness. So really looking for opportunities to help people to act, build their own sense of agency, rather than um, giving people lots of statistics about how urgent the situation is. So that training focused on how volunteers can apply that in a school context, making them aware of the things that I've mentioned already, that they'll be going into a really kind of complex ecosystem in a school. It's not just about kind of engaging the teachers and the students, that is important, but it's also about engaging the whole school community and really emphasizing that a whole school approach is important to embed meaningful action in a school. Yeah, so that's what we covered in 1.5 hours. That's the headline.
So those now will be going into schools. They've been making contact with the key person in the school in the head, and they would work with them on how they develop this. Now, clearly, if we extend this beyond the 4 schools that we hope to do in the future, you need more volunteers, don't you? That's pretty important. How important is it that we find volunteers before we move on?
Yeah, I would say it's extremely important. I think the way that this model works, or the Climate Ambassador program works, as I said, was connecting schools with high quality volunteer support and volunteers who are kind of prepared for this role. So the rule of thumb that we try to stick to is for any school that we offer support to, we have a volunteer lined up already so that we're not kind of over promising to the school, and we're kind of setting the expectations because yeah, we don't want to be saying to a school, we'll be able to provide you with support if we don't have the kind of the volunteer capacity to match that.
Well, that means if anyone here is interested in volunteering and would like to do some work with Lochlann and with us in going into schools in the future, let me know. When I say with us, we've developed a partnership. When Lochlann contacted us, I got together several groups. Lochlann himself, obviously, and EnCaf. Trevor, who's going to speak in a minute from Edmonton Community Partnership, and they were critical in this. We also involved, obviously, our air pollution group in EnCaf. We involved Local Motion, who is interested in the impact on children and pupils and students in the school. And we involved Power Up North London because they're interested in decarbonisation. They're interested in actually developing community energy solar panels and so on in schools. When you develop a project like this, Lochlann, how important is it that you develop a partnership like this?
Yeah, extremely important. And I see Aurora's on the call who's kind of looking at that the air pollution work with EnCaf. Um, and I think what's great about this approach, and what really excited us about working with EnCaf and working in the Enfield in the borough of Enfield was we're very aware that we don't want to be coming in as if nothing is happening already. We're acutely aware that there are many great projects and really important actions happening all across London. And our role is in promoting this climate action plan document and trying to get schools to write it is to capture existing actions that are happening. And I think that's something that's illustrated really well through EnCaf is you have the air pollution initiative, which is great. And that can then be something that schools do. And then they record that and capture that as an action on their climate action plan. So I think that structure is what works best for schools as well, because we often find that the issue isn't so much that there's a bunch of actions they can take, it's that they feel quite overwhelmed. If they start Googling, what can a school do? They'll be maybe overwhelmed with all of the different things out there. So being able to tap into these existing initiatives in Enfield and through EnCaf is extremely helpful for schools because when I've met with the head teachers, I've been able to say, this is the climate action plan. There are 4 areas you should cover, and through Power, um, you can look at the one of these pillars that will give you lots of actions to put in one of these pillars, and through the air pollution monitoring project, that's another set of actions that you can put onto your climate action plan.
And obviously, we're trying to incorporate community energy and air pollution into that, and that fits in very much with the spec you've got in working with the schools. I mean, for example, the air pollution um, part of our project, and you're going to talk to Aurora about that. How would you go about incorporating that in what you do?
So that I can give an example, or I can even just say what I've said to the schools so far, which is um, a climate action plan, as I said, it's about engaging the whole school community. And that will include students, but it will also include teaching staff, non-teaching staff, such as school business managers or site managers. And a project or doing a project like looking at air pollution or a kind of citizen science project ticks all of those boxes. So with one kind of uh, focus area, you can engage multiple different parts of the school community in ways that play to their strengths. So with students, that will be fantastic at getting them interested in engaging with the science or empowering students to feel like they're doing something meaningful. With the more operational sides of this of the school community, they will be the ones who are in a position to potentially do something about that. So it's giving them an opportunity to act based on data and information. And then for the teaching staff, it's potentially a really good teaching resource. So being able to incorporate data that students have collected themselves into lessons in the school, again, that kind of really lines up nicely with the academic aims that a school will have.